Nakaba, don't mention Benwick like that. Don't just throw that in there. Bond better be all right. Nakaba, you better not have off-screen Bond. Thank you to our $5 patron, Sin is Lancelot, and a big thank you to our $25 patron, the Mr. Greed. Now, before I end this review of Chapter 52 of 4 Nights of the Apocalypse, please my favorite leave your own thoughts on the chapter in the comment section down below, leave a like, and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, make sure you hit that little notification bell so you don't miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below where you can support me for as low as $1 a month. Any support would be appreciated. Now, let's get into it. What's up guys, I got Pencil here, and here we are to review chapter 52 of 4 Nights of the Apocalypse, which is known as Meliodas and Percival. And, like, here's the thing, I don't know, this has to be on purpose, right? Like, Nakaba, why are you betraying, who knows, he may be betraying Meliodas, but why are you portraying Meliodas as so, like, ominous? Like, he's so much more indirect. Well, then again, I guess he was always in. I don't know. Like, this chapter, like, I love seeing these two interact, obviously. The chapter title is the allure of this entire chapter. But still, like, the mystery, it's so palpable, if you will. But let's hop right into the chapter itself. So, actually, okay, I rarely do mention, like, the non-relevant chapter pages, or like, no, chapter opener pages, but I love how this first one is just both Percival and Meliodas calling each other Pipsqueak. And like, reasonably, Percival, you do not want to try this, man. I hate to say it, he may be asking for your help by the end of this chapter, but this is not the dude you want to mess with. However, we open up and we get to see that Percival is obviously a little bit shocked, because he's like, wait a minute, you're the king of Leonis? I mean, I ain't never seen a king before, but you just don't look like that guy, pal. And I love how Meliodas, like, I guess, the thing is, Meliodas was a character who, in the previous series, like, he was taken seriously when he was meant to be taken serious. Like, if you ever saw Demon Mark, Assault Mode, Meliodas, like, if they were ever glaring at you, you need to take it serious. But I guess Meliodas is, like, more used to, thanks to his kingly role of, like, just being generally respected for his title. So when he laughs about Percival possibly being surprised, and Percival laughs in his face, like, once again, Nakaba, he's fantastic at just bending character designs. Like, I have not laughed so much at just, like, the way a character is drawn. Like, just the way he over-exaggerates Percival's head, the mouth he draws, and it's like I'm not sure what to describe it as, but you can see this across all aspects of Nakaba's art, I'd say, throughout the entirety of 4 Nights. But from his action, to his set pieces, to his character designs, heck, to the way that he even has some elements in the narrative. Like, the thing is, it feels like Nakaba has taken off a restraint that he had in 7 Deadly Sins. I'm not saying 7 Deadly Sins is a poorly drawn manga or anything. It's amazing. I'd still say the art style of 7 Deadly Sins is going to be timeless for how good it is. But in terms of just artistic freedom, artistic detail, Nakaba has removed the restraint. Like, I don't ever see Nakaba drawing a character like this in original 7 Deadly Sins. And who knows? I think it may fit the narrative better there. But at the same time, I think this juxtaposition being caused by the artwork and the freedom that he's allowing himself to have is definitely going to help 4 Nights not only stand out on its own compared to 7 Deadly Sins, but at the same time possibly be just an even better created manga, just because of how much I'm loving the artwork. I know I went on a whole tangent there, but still, I really appreciate it, right? Like, as a person who likes to draw Nakaba's art style, and as a person who has, admittedly, if you look at a lot of my original art if you look at a lot of my avatars and their various designs, you can definitely see I've appropriated some of Nakaba's artistic design because I think it's that good. But yeah, it's always cool to see evolution within a mangaka, and it's great to see a mangaka evolve within their own craft. I don't know. I just personally enjoy it. I feel like my fellow artists out there are gonna be like, yeah, I know what he's talking about, but for the rest of you are gonna be like, I don't know, he just drew a funny face. But I don't care. Both of those opinions are valid. Of course, I love how Percival has this misconception. But to be fair, I can't even blame him, because Meliodas is fully dressed right now, so you can't see the immaculate gains that are underneath the outfit. But I love how Percival just automatically assumes Meliodas is a kid his age. Because to be fair, Meliodas is probably around half Donnie's height, shorter than Anne. And, like, I know Meliodas is 5 foot. how tall are the rest of the cast? Like, I know Bond's like 7 feet tall. I know he's like it's supposed to be, and thus is very big. But like Meliodas being this tiny, it almost feels like he's shrunk. But I guess maybe it's just the relative size of the characters that has shifted a bit. I don't know. But of course, as Percival's laughing at the idea that, oh, there's no way this kid my age could be a king, I find it hilarious how Meliodas, he isn't directly saying it, but he's very clearly implying like, oh, I'm not your age, kid. I've lived your age probably, hold on, let me just do some quick maths. Yeah, Meliodas has lived, and this is actually greater, but Meliodas has likely lived Percival's lifespan upwards of 250 times over. So he is right in the assertion that he is much older than Percival. But the thing is, Percival actually gives his age, and I guess both underestimated the age of each other due to their appearances, because Meliodas didn't know that Percival was actually 16. And notably, Meliodas goes on to start to say that, wait a minute, 16, that's the same age as my... But he gets cut off by Percival, who asks the very pertinent question of, like, how old are you? But I wonder, like, Meliodas is a dad now, so maybe he's a little bit more self-conscious about his age, because when Percival asks him, well, how old are you? He doesn't actually answer. He says, why does it matter? And Percival doesn't press him on that. But, like, I mean, maybe you don't want to give away but, like, what does that matter? Maybe, because, like, Percival, well, then again, Meliodas doesn't know much about Percival at this point. I think that's what this entire chapter is for. It's so Meliodas can get a better read on Percival as an individual. That's why he takes him everywhere. Because Meliodas is specifically hiding information that I feel like Meliodas in the last series, at least, wouldn't be afraid to hide to a point now. Like, everyone knows, if likely in his very own kingdom, that he's a 3,000-something-year-old demon. Like, this isn't uncommon knowledge now. At least in Leonis, the races... I mean, look at the 7 deadly sins. The races were just a thing. Lifespans and differences in lifespans. It's just a constant understanding. However, notably, we get to see a great interaction, right? I don't know. I really like it. That's why I drew it. But I love this interaction between Percival and Meliodas. And it's just, I don't know. It feels like a pseudo passing of the torch, right? Like, if this were a panel that signified the 7 Deadly Sins fans accepting 4 Knights of the Apocalypse into the fold, this would be it. Like, this would be the poster panel of that, where Meliodas just puts his hand on Tristan. I keep saying Tristan. I've gotten over that. Why do I keep saying? Because Meliodas is here, and I keep thinking of Tristan, and obviously Gwyneth Edinburgh. But Meliodas putting his hand on Percival's head and saying, "It's great to meet you, Percival. Allow me to personally welcome you here." It feels like a connection that, while being made last chapter, obviously, because the two met, it wasn't necessarily solidified, that Nakaba he just put it out there. Like, yes, this is the new MC. This is the previous MC fully accepting and welcoming the new MC into the fold, into the narrative. I know, we've been following Percival for literally 52 chapters at this point, but it's still cool to see, like, an in-universe passing of the torch, the acceptance of Percival as our new main character. And I don't know, I think that's really, really cool. I think Nakaba does that with purpose, because Nakaba, as much as I will clown on his writing sometimes, he's smart with it. He's slick with it. He will incorporate little things like this that'll make you be like, I see what you did there, manga man. I see what you did there. So it's cool to see that this like interaction is almost awakens something within Percival, right? We see that upon this like fatherly gesture, like this is essentially what it is. I think, hold on, let me see something. So no, I went back to chapter 1 and I thought Varghese gave Percival a head pat just like this, but no. My memory fabricated that. But notably, after going back to that first chapter, we do know pretty much every single thing that Varghese mentioned, like the knight that roams the sky, the lady of the lake, like all that. We know all that. And even the holy cave is what leads to the demon realm. So that's really, really cool. But on a separate note, this, like, I still think it's a paternal gesture that Meliodas does by patting Percival's head here that awakens, like, this lingering trauma within Percival. And notably, it's like Nakaba heard me. Like, he said, oh, that guy with the pencils released the top 6, his rating of my main cast. Let's see where he put Percival. What the heck? He put Percival number 4. Oh, because he isn't suffering enough? Because he doesn't have enough open emotion about the loss of his grandfather? Hold on, let me fix that. Because this paternal gesture awakens Percival's longing for his grandfather. And the question that Percival asks is, are you really a king? So, did you make him take me here? And Meliodas is interested. He's like, wait a minute. What are you talking about? And Percival goes on to explain, like, wait, you called me here. What? And I love how Percival in this moment, like, it was a sobering moment for him. It woke up all the questions that lie dormant beneath his surface, which I think is actually a really good callback to chapter 1 now that I think about it. Because when Percival was initially asked the questions about wanting to go out into the world, giving all these opportunities, he was so eager, he was so excited. But now that he's faced with this world, he's like, why did you call me here? What are the four knights of the apocalypse? Can I really destroy the world? What is King Arthur from Camelot like? And to be fair, he says can't be mine. But like, it kind of ruins the moment, Nakaba. Like, you could have just had him say Camelot at least this one time. I know it probably would have been the character break, but still kind of throws it off. But I'm going to let it slide because this is still Percival being serious. And of course, the culminating question to all of these questions is, why did Grandpa have to die? And I think it's great to see a part that Percival really isolated to himself. Like, every single time Percival went off on his own, that's when we got those moments of reflection from Percival. That's when we got those questions. That's when we got that longing that some characters picked up on. Like Nasians and Sin / Lancelot both picked up on Percival's longing for a simpler time, his longing for answers. Like, they both picked up on that. But it was never directly shown to us. So seeing Percival being put in this state where he finally has someone who can give him answers, finally has someone in front of him who can tell him the truth, he's forced to ask, what happened? What am I doing here? And why did the only person I grew up alongside and learned to love and care for, why did he have to die? And that's great. Like, honestly, just not expecting that. And the thing is, the more and more reactions we get out of Meliodas, the more and more interesting this whole idea of the vision. Like, so many, once again, plot points thrown up in the air, questions thrown up in the air, and I love it because Meliodas, as he reveals here, did not know that Varghese died. So that means he likely thought that Varghese he just sent Percival out there. Like, Lancelot found Percival, but Varghese had, like, essentially sent him off on his journey. But no, Meliodas now realizes that Varghese is dead. Which likely, because the thing is, my original question was, Lancelot, how did you find, or how did you know where Percival was? Why were you perched at the bottom of God's finger? But the thing is, it would make sense why he was perched down there, because of the vision. However, the thing we also know about the vision is that it's not exactly the clearest thing out there. It'll give you general speculations, general ideas. So I bet Meliodas knew one of the four knights of the apocalypse will appear at the bottom of God's finger, but he didn't know what would cause that. And that explains why he didn't know who Percival's grandfather was. He didn't know if Varghese was dead or alive. And he's in this revelatory state where he's just picking up bit of information after bit of information. He's consistently learning right now, which is great. And honestly, it's weird, right? Like, Nakaba, you did not write like that. Okay. He did have moments of spectacular writing in the original series. But this, like, dual-sided narrative where one character with a whole bunch of answers and another character with a whole bunch of answers to equally unidentifiable scenarios are finally meeting, but neither can really answer each other fully and directly. That's really, really good. And it leaves room for answers and questions. Now, notably, I do want some answers to these questions, but obviously that's not the route that Nakaba's going down. And the thing is, right, we talked about Nakaba picking up the pace. Like, we constantly joke how Lancelot literally said, enough filler. We're jumpstarting the plot. He threw down the teleportation beat. We're back in Leonis and we're keeping it pushing. However, we ain't pushing P because we're still taking the narrative at this slow digestive pace. We don't know who all the four knights are. Still, Like, we have a general idea, but it's not confirmed. We don't know if they're all here. We don't know where Tristan is. We don't know where Gawain is. We don't know what Arthur's real goals are. We don't know where our characters stand. We don't know where our original characters are. Like, there's still so much that's left to be uncovered. And Nakaba will pick up the pace by taking us right back to Leonis, by introducing us to Meliodas. By introducing us to Meliodas again, by giving us all this old stuff that is extremely pertinent and pressing to the modern narrative, while still keeping all the extra stuff a mystery. It's like, I don't know, chef's kiss. I don't know. I really appreciate that. It's weird. It's weird how Nakaba has set up the scenario, but I like how strange it is. But of course, we see Meliodas in his political manner being like, I'll tell you all that in a bit. Right now, though, let's go for a walk. And I think this walk has multifaceted meanings behind it. One, Meliodas doesn't want to repeat himself. Two, the idea is that he sees the sadness in Percival's eyes, and he realizes that without proper motivation, outside of the death of his grandfather, obviously, he may not be dedicated to the task at hand and be dedicated to what he needs to do. So what this walk will do is not only humanize Meliodas to Percival, which will be a big thing in building their connection, building their bond, but on top of that, it will humanize Leonis to Percival. It's not just going to be a pretty place. It's going to be a place that he was going to want to grow to love and protect, which I think a little two-faced of you, Meliodas, but I like the way you're thinking. That's smart. And of course, we essentially get like Leonis's greatest hits, right? Like all your characters that would be, except for one, still no Elizabeth in this chapter, big sus, and still no Tristan in this chapter, even bigger sus. But we see that we're essentially hitting Leonis's greatest hits, right? We go back to Hendrickson's free clinic, and this is one of Leonis's apparently most vital spots. Like, this is where you go if you need to be healed from something. And notably, it does make sense because Hendrickson was a druid, and the druids specialize in healing. And obviously, he worked with a goddess or two. He knows his way around some healing magic. And oh wait, no, a detail I need to press is I love how when Percival, once again, this goes into the humanizing, Meliodas trying to attempt to humanize himself despite being a demon to Percival. When Percival's like, hey, you want me to go on a walk with you, King? And of course, Meliodas is like, hey, drop the formal stuff. Call me Meliodas. I think that's cool. I don't know. I like that. It's the humanization, linking the past to the present, passing the torch. It's like so much is wrapped up in these like first couple pages. I really appreciate it. It includes a realistic development for Percival's character. It tells us more about the narrative. It gives us perspective on both sides to the narrative. It raises even more, like so much good stuff is set up so quickly. And it's like, I'm literally just gobbling it up. It's so delicious. But of course, we go back to Hendrickson's free clinic, and it's interesting. I love how Percival's like, hey, the geezer with the bad back. And of course, as Meliodas greets Dreyfus, Dreyfus is happy to see that not only Meliodas is here, but obviously Percival's here too. And it's interesting. I think it's cool that these two people of major importance previously are now happy to be humble, right? Like Dreyfus willingly calls Meliodas His Majesty because he is the king, and Dreyfus has to respect that, but he does it with a smile on his face. And I love how, like, Hendrickson and Dreyfus, they always gave off that brother dynamic, but this is something that I can definitely see two siblings doing. Like, as Dreyfus goes to say, like, hey, that thing you did to my back, it felt great. I'm all back to normal. Hendrickson just steps out. I think his beard looks better. I didn't complain about Hendrickson's beard last chapter, but it looked a little bit too puffy. So I like how Nakaba cut it down. He looks a lot more respectable and clean cut now. And I love how he just pushes Dreyfus away with one hand. I don't know. It's just really nice. And then we get to see that, hey, these two guys are, or at least were, of still great importance. They're like, Meliodas goes on to explain that you're looking at the two previous great holy knights. So these guys are big deals, and of course they're pretty strong. And of course that's the first question Percival asks, because he has this whole concept of holy knights in his head. But notably, we see these two. Like, I think once again, like if Meliodas putting his hand on Percival's head and welcoming him is the passing of the torch for Meliodas to Tristan as the MC, their disinterest in their strength in terms of Dreyfus and Hendrickson, when it used to be a big part of their characters, them being more interested on the magic that Percival had. That goes on to show you that, hey, these guys, they're out of the narrative, all right? Like, it's not like they're weak, it's not like they're fodder, it's not like they're irrelevant, but don't expect to see them on the front lines anytime soon. Both of them are beyond that. I think that's fine. That's a good way to retire these characters off, and I think it's nice. It's nice. I do kind of hope we get like a little something from them, just because for the nostalgic hype of it all. But at the same time, I'm happy that they're both here. But I love how when Hendrickson goes on to like ask questions about, hey, what about that magic? Can you teach me how to do it? Like, what was that solve you would? Please help me out. Now, Percival gets pushed along by Meliodas, like, alright, we're gonna go. We're gonna keep it moving. And I love how Percival, thinking about his friends, is like, better tell Noskins about this clinic later. Like, he's still, despite being with Meliodas, despite being with the king of Leonis, he's like, he's still thinking about his friends. His friends still matter to him the most. And that's why he's considering their own interests. And I think that's really, really cool. He still is my fourth, he still is my fourth favorite out of the main cast. But at the same time, I still really do like Percival. Especially in these more reflective moments that aren't just all memes and Doritos. So, of course, we get to see that the best forge, and Leonis happens to be here. And ironically enough, this used to be, oh no, it is the home of a great holy knight, even though he never took over the business. And notably that I think it was, the Hauser chapters never said he wasn't anymore. But I guess he is like co-great holy knight with Gilthunder, or maybe he never did. He says a great holy knight, not necessarily the great holy knight. So I think maybe Gilthunder and Hauser are like co-captains of the Holy Knight squad. Very, very interesting. And of course, we get to see that I'm sure Percival has the memory bandwidth to remember this, but he's like, oh, this is Hauser's house. And Meliodas is shocked, like, wait a minute, you ran into that guy? Where is he? He needs to come back here and get to work. And then Percival's like, oh yeah, this is the blade. That's the guy who made the blade to Dragon Handle. And I wonder, right? Like, Meliodas, you gotta at least want to hold it once again. Like, come on, bro. That was your original weapon. Just hold it, please, for my nostalgia. But of course, someone pops out the forge, and it's a character who I really wasn't expecting. It's actually Zeal. Zeal, Gila's little brother, is the smith of Leonis. Notably, Meliodas does mention a foreman, and I wonder if that is still Hauser's dad or someone else. We don't know who the foreman is. And, I mean, maybe, unless he's the foreman, I'm dumb, so I don't know much about blacksmithing. So if foreman is whatever Zeal's role is, then whoops. But if not, then Meliodas mentions another character that's in there, but we don't get to see. But of course, we note that Meliodas was ordering a bunch of training swords, which I wonder why. But on top of that, it is acknowledged that Zeal did want to be a holy knight one day. So, of course, it's majorly important that he has shifted his whole goals, his whole structure, which I think is cool. It is an arc that happens off screen, but once again, Zeal is a very, very, very minor character. Like, he is the side character to a side character to a side character, when you really think about it, because Bon was the MC that branched off to Jericho, who branched off to Gila, who branched off to, well, and then again, we ran into Gila first. So at least he's a side character's side character. So it's cool to see that he had this own little off-screen arc, and he honestly enough looks like a young Escanor. I don't know why. He looks a lot like a young Escanor, but once again, Nakuma's designs they tend to be pretty homogenous, so it's not surprising, but it's cool to see him too. And of course, we just get a whole mention of all these peddlers and these people. Essentially, Leonis is a trade hub, and scaring me. Nakuma, you're scaring me, because notably, I mean, peddlers, but Fairy Kingdom. Maybe, well, no. Fairies definitely got a bit more advanced with Bon as their king, so who knows? Maybe this isn't a sign of Bon being, off-screen. This is just a sign that the fairies are more willing to trade, because Meliodas goes on to explain that they get all kind of peddlers, even from Northern Barbarians, which is the clan that I thought... Well, no, they killed a whole bunch of them, but Hauser and Griamore, not Hauser and Griamore, Hauser and Gilthunder didn't actually just slaughter them all. But of course, barbarians from the north and folks from Benwick to the south. So, Benwick is still around. Hopefully Bond's still leading it. Please don't off-screen Bond. But of course, we get to see everyone greeting the king, and I like it. You know, like I said, Meliodas, he's just a part of the world now. So everyone knows who he is. Everyone's willing to greet him. Everyone's greeting him happily, and we see that with all these people and things here, there's a whole ton of trade going on, and thusly, there's a whole lot to consume and explore. And we get to see that there's been a rumbling, if you will. And I do think it's cool that there's an Attack on Titan reference within the fabled manga of Fortnite the Apocalypse. But no, in actuality, Meliodas doesn't answer that. He actually focuses Percival's attention to something called the Black Cat's Yawn. Now, who had a black... That has to be a reference to something. Please tell me in the comments, because I couldn't think of anything. Who was a black cat? Because, like, for some reason, my mind instantly goes to Merlin because of witchcraft, but that's not a thing. Would that be Vivian's establishment? The Black Cat's Yawn. Who was a cook? I can't think of anyone from the last series that would be running the Black Cat's Yawn, but I think this is a very explicit reference to something that I just don't remember. So, if you have the knowledge of that, please tell me in the comment section down below. But, of course, we get to see that the fish pies here are just amazing, apparently, and thusly Meliodas is like, you know, I almost used my kingly powers to subpoena them and shut them down permanently for health violations, but you know, the food's so good, I can't knock the hustle. Bond's gone, he can't cook for anymore, so I gotta have good food somewhere. And I love, once again, that Percival and Meliodas are just bonding together, right? Like these two are eating, having a good time, working together, and we see that this rumbling that was going on was the advent of giants. And yeah, there's just a giant taxi service going on around. Uber Eats, I don't know. But of course, there are multiple things here. I love how Percival's like, yo, not gonna lie, this fish cake is so bussin' that it makes your pudding seem like slop in comparison. To be fair, it is slop. And I love how Meliodas responds, like in an even tone, like, you're a pretty good jokester, but don't get Hellblaze, bro. Like, I love the general ominous nature behind that. And of course, we get to see that the rumbling that was going on was a big old giant. He essentially is the Uber Eats and Uber Move of Leonis. And I think it's cool that giants are just allowed to walk around, right? Like this universal species, like Leonis is the connecting point to all of the other races, right? Like you can argue that Echo Gorge was one too, but there's literally every single race here in one way, shape, or form. Elizabeth is part goddess. Obviously, all the humans. There are the demons, and there's also brain went numb. Goddess, human, demon, fairy, giant. Like the 5 major races, they're all represented in Leonis in one way, shape, or form. I think that's really, really cool. And of course, we get to see that the fairies are even dealing out food from Benwick. The red berries fresh from Benwick. And of course, Meliodas offers to buy some, and he gives them to Percival, and they have this whole nice exchange. And I don't know, it's really nice. It just feels like a good bonding time between these two main characters. And of course, Percival, he's just loving it. They were carried around, they had a good time, and notably, they end up at this weird tower. And I wonder if this is, I don't think this is the palace, but we see that at this tower that Percival asks he doesn't ask, but he says the very important thing, like, wow, I didn't know people lived with giants and fairies in Leonis. This is actually pretty interesting. And notably, apparently the Holy War caused them to like all migrate here, which implies that these are the same giants and fairies that came and attacked within Cursed by Light. And I do like that continuity there. Even though it doesn't, like, y'all couldn't go back, y'all had to stay, y'all had to integrate. Is this, did Meliodas make y'all pay reparations or something? Like, why are y'all still here? But no, I do like it because it makes a melting pot of all the different races. And notably, we see that there's not many here, which is like a slight ominous thing. Like, I wonder if he's saying there's not many here, and there's not many in Leonis, or there's not many fairies and giants left in general, which both could be true because, once again, the Holy War. People were fighting for their lives there, and obviously you couldn't save everybody. But we see that despite not being many people being there, Percy's happy that, you know, everyone's getting along. We get all along together. And I think that's cool. Once again, pushing the narrative that humans and other races can understand each other despite their differences, which was what I thought the whole narrative point of Seven Deadly Sins was, but Nakama decided to flip that at the very end. That's once again, like, as much as I've been praising Nakama's writing in this chapter and what he's been doing with the narrative so far, I still think it's kind of stupid that we're still on the, oh, the different races can't understand each other because they're just different. Bro, we've been through this. Like, I don't know why that was such a sticking point. But of course, we see that Percival asks a very interesting question, like, oh, wait a minute, you got fairies? You got giants? You got humans? You got anyone from the Demon Clan? Demon Gang, Dolce Monte in the building. Big Gother in the building. And Meliodas is like, yeah. And, like, Meliodas, why you clowning on your own clan, bro? Like, I know they betrayed you, or, well, you betrayed them, and there was a whole 3,000-year war, you got cursed, or something like that. That semantics, right? It's in the past, bro. It's 3,000 years old. Get over it already. Because he says, like, you're a funny guy. What kind of weirdo wants to live with demons? Meanwhile, probably, I mean, unless, like, Tristan, who knows? Once again, he may be stronger than Meliodas right now. But, arguably, from what we know, what we've seen, the strongest demon to ever live asked what kind of weirdo would want to live with demons? I think it's really cool, right? Because it's playing on the expectation. It's that dual-sided narrative where if you read Seven Deadly Sins, that hits as a really, really funny joke. Meanwhile, if you didn't read Seven Deadly Sins, Meliodas has exhibited no demon tendencies. So you may just be like, huh, it's kind of strange that the King of Leonis is a little bit separatist against demons for some reason, but obviously he is a demon. So I think that's really, really cool that he clowns on his own clan. Like, you ever make fun of your own people? Your own family members? I do. So I definitely get where Meliodas is coming from on that front. And Percival, repping Demon Clan, we rocking with Mark, because Mark is rocking with us in the way of Percival, because the demons are rocking with Percival, because Percival's rocking with us, because he's like, hey, I don't hate any of the demons. I went to one of their villages in Delphair. They're really, really nice. And I love, once again, it's good to know what Meliodas knows and doesn't know, because he does know that Gother is running that village with all the demons, right? Like, he does know that Gother is just traveling around, finding them a place to live, meaning they are in some contact. However, I love how Percival, once again, starts to speak demon language. And we still never got an answer to how he did that. I forgot to mention that in the Percival magic video, why it's so busted. How did he learn that so quickly? What allowed him to do that? How can he speak demon fluently, mind you? Like, he's switching back and forth between demon and Britannian so quickly. He's doing that like a native Spanish speaker who learned English would. Like, it's casual for him. It's just a back and forth between the two. And he goes on to explain that he made a friend among the demons there, and one of his friends really likes their ale too. And of course he's talking about Don. I like how the whole cast kind of gets mentioned here, except for I think he doesn't actually mention Anne and or Lance here, which is interesting, though it makes sense, because nothing that Meliodas showed would really appeal to those two, outside the Holy Knight stuff. I feel like if there was any time to mention, like, Anne, it would be at the point where he met Dreyfus and Hendrickson, considering they were talking about Holy Knight stuff. But of course, I love how Meliodas is, like, Percival's all confident, right? He's just like, hey, what you think I just said, huh? You ain't like me, though. Yeah, it's me. I'm on demon time. I can speak demon. What you got? And Meliodas, and it's cool. I don't know. For some reason, this is like a bilingual representation. Seven Deadly Sins. I don't know. This is cool to see Meliodas with this sly look on his face slip in to be like, well, if you ask me, the ale that they make has a long, long, long way to go. It's like, it's cool how Meliodas, after 3,000 years, like, who does he speak demon to? No one. Like, unless he hops on the interdimensional phone call with Zelda saying, like, hey, yo, bro, what's good, dude? And they, like, start chopping it up in demon language. Like, what reason does Meliodas have to speak demon? I don't know. I think it's cool that he still, after all this time, he still got it in the system. You know what I'm saying? He didn't lose it, even though he didn't use it, right? Like, he's still able to pop out the demon tongue whenever he really needs to. And I love how Percival's, like, Percy, can you, just as Meliodas asked, can you tell me how you learned the demon language so quickly? And you just a human, bro? Like, what in your magical logic to do that? Because Meliodas asked a very clear question that Percival asked him, like, how do you know how to speak demon? But of course, it goes back to, they're back to idle conversation. Because once Percy reaches the top of that spire that they're on, they get to see a whole beautiful view of Leonis, the walls, that garden, stuff like that. And we see that Percy can even take a picture, or like he can see villages in small towns past Leonis in this beautiful shot here. And of course, we see that there's a castle on top of a mountain, and apparently that's Darkmon, a small nation. And it's nice, and it's led by Griamore. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Well, to be fair, y'all Arthurian mythology buffs in the comment section, please do me a favor. Explain, explain to me. Was Griamore ever a king? Like, I don't know. He's led by Griamore. What happened? Like, that is a big leap. Like, Hauser didn't change much. Guildthunder, well, we don't know where he is, likely didn't change much. But Griamore went from the weakest of the Holy Knight trio to running his own kingdom. Even if it is a tiny nation, that's still a big leap. And I love how Percival is looking at it, right? Like, after going through all that, after bonding with Meliodas, after living the life within Leonis itself, he's like, wow, I can really tell after all this, even after this tiny little excursion, I can tell all the people who live in and around Leonis have to be really happy. And Meliodas, the wind blows and his smile blows away, and he's like, yeah, but that's going to be going away soon. The people, the nations, the land, everything. And he humbly asked Percival, please, you need to help us. And the chapter ends right there. And that was mad. I don't know what it is, but let's talk about what that could be. So, Arthur could be on that scorched earth mentality, if you will. He could be like, you know what? I was going to be nice to y'all. I was going to be cordial. I can't even spell cordial. I'm only 16, by the way. I can't spell that good. But, you know, I'm just going to take a scorched earth policy. The moment I get out, the moment I start moving, I'm raising the entire world to the ground. But I don't think he wants to do that, because that's a lot of humans to count. Like, it's a weird thing. Like, I'm not shocked that Arthur, by humans, for humans, of humans, would be on that Mubon Park mentality where he'd be like, you can sacrifice a few to get a couple left. But a town is one thing. An entire kingdom, like a kingdom as populous as Leonis, is another thing. So I don't think Arthur's on that scorched earth mentality where he's like, I'm going to destroy everything. However, at the same time, I do think what Meliodas means here when he says the land, the nations, everything, the people, I think he literally means that Arthur is going to like consume the entire world. Like, this free, happy land is going to be destroyed by Arthur because he's going to succinctly rule it all. He's going to create a state of being where there is no autonomy, there's nothing, there's only Camelot, and all the other races that live in this happy unity will now be separated and abandoned and possibly slaughtered. And I think that's really, really cool for someone like Meliodas, obviously the real ambassador, a main representation of this unity of the species. He's the one that is like, this matters to me, and I need your help to protect it, because this is a case. And notably, this makes me wonder all the more, Arthur, my boy, what has you stopping, right? What has you holding the gun back? Because if Meliodas, and listen, this random 16-year-old who can speak demon language, for his help, what threat does Meliodas pose? Like, what's the problem? Hey, where the problem at? Arthur, spin on Leonis like a laundromat. Like, legitimately, what's stopping him? And I don't know. Maybe it's something to do. Like, there's so many questions about Arthur's status and what this whole destroying the world means. But I am still on the camp that the 4 Knights of the Apocalypse means that the apocalypse is inevitable, and the 4 Knights are going to be the ones to reverse it. Like, one way or another, this world will be destroyed, but it will be the job of Percival, Lance, Tristan, Gawain, or whoever the 4 Knights end up being. It'll be their job to fix the world after the apocalypse has come. They will be the ones to cure death, stop war, deter pestilence, and I forget what the last one is. So they will be the ones to go against their fate, go against the world that Arthur will ensue. So that's why Meliodas is so desperate to help him and get him trained and essentially do it. Because I'm assuming the reason Meliodas is so determined on getting the knights gathered and is so determined on getting Percival strong enough to help is because he's seen through Parcher's vision that, hey, regardless of what we do, there's nothing we can do to change the fact that this world that we live in is only temporary and is going to end at any moment. So we need to take every single moment to prepare those who can stop the future, or those who can help in the future. We need to take every moment to prepare them. And I think that's really, really cool. It's like, once again, the whole admittance that Meliodas is not the MC anymore, the whole admittance of the passing of the torch, everything that has been here that has built up to the idea that one way or another, our group, our 7 deadly sins will not be enough, and that they need the help of the 4 Knights of the Apocalypse. I'm glad that we're here. It's establishing, as much as I don't like it, because I kind of hate the, it's a weird catch-22, because I hate the Boruto effect, where we have to write around strong characters by either making them weaker and or simply just randomly amping the enemies. But I also am not the biggest fan of the Dragon Ball effect, where, oh, none of the side characters can do anything, and it's still going to be the original MC show. So I feel like a happy medium would be better. Like, I would love to see the remaining 7 deadly sins post up alongside the 4 Knights of the Apocalypse and this beautiful double-page spread as we see Arthur's forces of chaos come into like a big final war. That is what I would love. I would love it if our characters don't get written out of the narrative, if they don't become power relevant, and we're just writing them off. But at the same time, I can definitely see why Nakaba wants to write them off, because this isn't their story anymore. So, I don't know. I really like this chapter, mainly for the fact that it shows so much of Leonis. And it does so much for the humanization of Leonis to Percival, and does so much for the connection between Meliodas and Percival. So when Meliodas gets offed, it'll not only be an emotional impact for us, the readers who have been with Meliodas for all this time, but it'll also be an emotional gut punch to Percy, who, as our reader's conduit, as our MC, it matters. His feelings matter just as much as our feelings do. And I'm excited to see that. I'm excited, and once again, I'm excited to see that real, deep, proper human side of Percival that's scared, that's lost, that wants answers. And I'm glad to see it finally revealed to someone who he knows so little about. He hid it from his friends for so long, but now that it's finally being pushed to the forefront, now that's finally being brought upon him, now that the plot is finally happening, there's no running from it anymore. There's no running from destiny. And I'm so excited to see what their destiny brings. However, let's just wrap it up there. Please tell me your thoughts on this chapter in the comment section down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I hope you guys know that there's a notification bell down below. And I do have a Patreon down below where you can support me for as low as $1 a month. Any support would be appreciated. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That Guy with the Pencil, writing off.